Welcome, one and all, to the mystical world of Filbar. Adventures abound throughout this realm, and we appreciate the opportunity to regale you with some stories from these trails. These accounts are all based on actual RPG experiences that occurred within Adventures in Filbar. Some of these tales may be for mature audiences, while others may be for very immature audiences. We now present the sage Mikas Tumo from Tamel, also known as the Bard of Filbar.
Welcome to session Fartook-92. In our previous episode, most of the party located Haggrad Toulouse and were able to speak with him. While he gave them some hope, he had other appointments to attend and suggested that they meet later for dinner. He also pointed out that Bolger and Lady Irena had been arrested and were currently incarcerated in the Gulag near the center of town. We rejoin Fargus, Sister Elaine, Karina, and Cabe Silvertongue as they reach the fortified building known as the Gulag. I understand that, sir. However, it is imperative that we speak with the watch commander, as you have our friends incarcerated. May we please speak with the captain? The guard seemed unimpressed, but felt bad that he had to dismiss a cleric of Dilo. Thinking for a minute, and checking to make sure his cohorts didn't overhear, he leaned in and told Sister Elaine that she could find the commander at Madame Overmeyer's, 3 blocks over. He then yelled loudly, "I don't care if you're friends. You have to leave before you join them," before murmuring a sorry as he shut the door. The exasperated cleric relayed what she had learned, then the foursome moved quickly through the streets of Fort Myers. With the directions murky, the party got lost and quickly discovered that asking people for assistance to Madame Overmeyer's seemed to get a foul look by most. Finally, the quartet located someone who knew of the establishment and arrived at the location. Even a casual glance at the facade of the building was all it took to realize that the building was a brothel. "Great," muttered the cleric as she led them to the front of the building just as the door opened up. The interior of the business was quite loud and a hive of activity. A man holding a guard's tabard was exiting with 2 ladies, one on each arm, in various forms of attire. Vargas stepped up and demanded to know where the guard commander was, as he had urgent business with him. The man looked a bit stunned, then sized up the large ranger and tossed his tabard on over his armor. "What kind of business do you have with him, may I ask?" replied the man. The pair began to argue and started to go nose to nose when both Karina and Sister Elaine intervened. It was at that time that they discovered that the guard was actually the watch commander coming from an afternoon rendezvous. The trio then began to argue with the commander, professing their associate's innocence. The watch commander inquired as if they had been present at the altercation and boomed out a loud, "Aha! So you don't know what happened, nor could you have since you were not present. I find your lack of evidence a compelling reason to keep your associates locked up, especially if they are the same ilk as you." Fargus Stoutheart took offense to the comment, and the two went nose to nose again. The pair of ladies watched as their lover appeared to be ready to fight, as Cabe slipped in behind his companions and the commander. "Ladies, a moment of your time, if I may," said the half-elf. His natural charm and good looks were not enough to pry the women away from the soon-to-be violent encounter, but a shake of his coin purse did the trick. The trio went inside momentarily as several more guards appeared to bolster their commander's position. As the cleric and waif looked to each other, they both sensed that they may soon be joining their associates in the Gulag. As both the ranger and commander raised fists to begin the fight, the pair of ladies and a third companion exited the building and latched onto the commander. The taller brunette leaned in and whispered something into the commander's ear that caused his look to change from anger to excitement. Lowering his fist, he asked, "Really?" and glanced over to the new girl. "Well, that changes everything. Guards throw these adventurers in the Gulag with their friends." While the adventurers groaned and shook their heads, the other comely wench, a blonde, leaned in and whispered into his other ear. A look of surprise overtook his face, and he raised his fist, causing the guards to cease. "Are you sure?" asked the commander to the blonde. She smiled brightly and was giddy with excitement. The commander thought for a moment before speaking to the guards. Huh. Well, I may have been mistaken. These individuals are someone else. Guards, take them to the Gulag and go ahead and release their associates. We seem to have a case of mistaken identity. A look of relief rained down on the faces of the threesome as the commander waved his guards off and returned inside with the 3 ladies of the night. One brutish guard commanded the group to follow him so that he could complete the orders given. None of the party noticed a very smug half-elf following along behind them, his change purse less full than when he arrived in town. A few blocks away, the brutish guard ordered the Gulag door open and the adventurers to be released. He was questioned by those inside, but rebuked them harshly, pointing out that the orders were given to him by the commander himself. A few minutes later, both Bulger and Sister Elaine were hustled out of the prison and released to their friends. Both had sustained minor injuries from the fight, but were hugged by the overjoyed associates. The guards moved off, leaving the 5 adventurers to catch up. Cabe had been hanging back so as to not arouse suspicion, but quickly moved across the street to join them once the guards left. Halfway across the street, a rider bore down on him, and he barely managed to dodge the individual. As the 2 crossed paths, it took a moment for Cabe to realize that the rider was no other than Sir Haggrad. Stunned at the revelation, he sprinted to his compatriots and questioned them about the whereabouts during the encounter with the commander. He shook his head violently and yelled at everyone to shut up, which stunned his associates. "I just saw the gray cloak right out of town." Lady Irena and Bulger, the sailor, were clueless as to the revelation, but Sister Elaine and Fargus laughed it off, pointing out that the knight was encased in a gemstone with Haggrad. Karina noted the seriousness of the bard and inquired if he was certain. His recant of the near miss causing them to all ponder the veracity of his tale and began to look at each other. "Let's go!" yelled out the ranger, and the party ran headlong back to the inn where they had dealt with their patron. Blasting into the inn, they found a quartet of guards speaking with the innkeeper and the corpse of Hagrid Toulouse on the floor in a pool of blood. The next words chilled the group to the bone as the innkeepers pointed to them and uttered, "Thems were the people. That group right there. They were the last to talk to the wizard." The guards unsheathed their blades and began to advance on our heroes.
We close out this episode now and give you our thanks for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Bards Podcast. For everyone in Adventures of Filbar, thanks for listening.